When a father abuses his two sons, you often wonder if there are more victims. And when you have power and money like Jose Menendez, there is a strong possibility there could be more victims. And now it is 2024 and the Menendez brothers could be getting out and a third victim has come forward. However, is this person actually a victim of Jose Menendez? Let's find out right now. Wednesday, my Cajun cuties. Yes, it's me, Anne-Marie, aka the Cajun Crime Queen from Carrico, Louisiana. Cajun born, Cajun bred, and when I die, I'll be Cajun dead. I hope after this video that you like, subscribe, and comment, and don't forget to press the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, Anne-Marie. I hope you have a beverage. I hope you have a snuggle partner or a snuggle fur partner. Those are the best, and you're ready to hear a true crime story with yours truly. And as always, I want to know, are you drinking that water? Are y'all staying hydrated? Are y'all getting those tickers up? Remember, just a quick 20-30 minute walk, especially first thing in the morning, get those endorphins up, and you are going to have an amazing, wonderful day, I promise you. And I want to thank you all for joining me tonight on Wicked Wednesday as we cover part 5 of the Menendez brothers. Yes, today we are going to be discussing the Menendez brothers and a third victim that has came out and said he was in fact a victim of Jose Menendez. His name is Roy Stephen Rosselló Diaz, born on May 1st, 1970 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And before I move any further, I am just letting y'all know that I love Puerto Rico. It is a beautiful country. I adore it. It is a stunning place to vacation. I love everything about Puerto Rico. And if y'all haven't been, y'all need to go because it is a great place to vacation. Tons of things to do and the scenery is, amazing, amazing. Roy was the third of 4 siblings. His parents split up when he was very young. Roy was extremely close to his mother. He loved having fun. Roy was an extraordinary soccer player. He was so good at soccer that he played on the Puerto Rican national children's team and won several awards as well. Roy was known as a troublemaker and a wild child in school. He was often getting into fights, and his older brother Juan would often have to get him out of these fights. He often bullied his younger brother Rene as well. He was just a typical older brother with his little brother Rene. And it was said that in school, he was just a crazy wild child, just loved having fun and loved playing soccer. When Roy was around 12 years old, his mother enrolled him into music school as she noticed his love for music and dancing. And around this time, a very, very popular band by the name of Menudo was traveling all over Puerto Rico, singing, dancing, and performing. They were like the NSYNC and Backstreet Boys of my time. They were all boy band and they were adored by several female fans. And that is where the famous Ricky Martin got his claim to fame. Ricky Martin, as we all know, Shake Your Bom Bom, Livin' La Vida Loca, he was a member of Menudo back when he was very young. And if y'all go watch the videos of Menudo on YouTube, they were an incredible boy band. And Ricky Martin was so precious back then. I mean, Ricky Martin's gorgeous, but back then as a child, oh, he was so cute. Y'all gonna see him. He was the tiniest one. Anyway, Roy's friend Richie one day asked Roy, would you like to come to see where Menudo rehearses? Roy goes, and as soon as Roy arrives on the premises, tons of teenage girls swarm him, asking him for his autograph, wanted to take pictures with him. And Roy wasn't even a part of the band, but because Roy was so good looking and so cute, everyone thought he was a part of Menudo. And while all these fans are swarming Roy, the owner of Menudo, Eduardo Diaz, is inside of the building and he notices this. And he sees Roy and takes a liking into Roy and invites Roy inside and says, would you like to audition for Menudo? Roy says, of course I would, absolutely. Eduardo Diaz takes pictures of Roy and sees he is such a good-looking, gorgeous guy and just puts him on Menudo. Roy doesn't even audition to be a part of Menudo. He automatically makes it. However, as they all say, there is a price for fame. And there was a price for Roy. Roy did, in fact, make Menudo. And Eduardo was promising all of these things. Do you want to be famous? Do you want to have money? Do you want to be popular? Do you want to be adored? And of course, Roy's like, absolutely, yes, 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 of course. But what was Roy going to have to endure for this price of fame? A week after Eduardo meets Roy, he goes to Roy's school, speaks to his principal, and tells his principal that he wants Roy to be a part of Menudo. And that is when Roy's principal allows Eduardo Diaz to take Roy out of school and take him to his house. Now, I know what y'all are thinking, just like I was thinking. What type of principal allows a child to be taken out of school by another adult that's not their parents? First of all, this was 1983 and the world was different back then. Second of all, as I dug deep into this case, I realized that Eduardo Diaz was a legend in Puerto Rico. He was the owner of the most popular band in Puerto Rico, Menudo. So everyone was comfortable and loved Eduardo Diaz. So this principal didn't have a problem allowing Roy to be checked out by Eduardo. Roy then calls his mother and tells his mother that he's going to his friend's house. But in reality, he was going to Eduardo's house. Eduardo wanted to talk to him about being in the band Menudo. When Roy arrives at Eduardo Diaz's mother's house, Eduardo takes Roy into a back room, sits him down, and starts with the promises once again. Do you want to be famous? Do you want to have money? Do you want to be adored? Do you want to have all these fans swarming you? All these promises. And of course, Roy says, yes, I do. Then all of a sudden, Eduardo Diaz's mother calls his name. Eduardo steps out of the room. Roy cracks the door to listen. And that is when Roy hears Eduardo's mother say, don't even think about doing anything with that boy. Eduardo says, oh no, it's nothing like that. I'm giving him advice. He wants to be a part of Menudo. And that is when Eduardo's mother pointed her finger at him and says, I know your intentions with that boy. I know what you were thinking, and I know what you want to do with that boy. Eduardo says, don't worry, mother. And if he says anything, no one would believe him anyway. Y'all, when I heard that, I was mad, yeah. You know that your son is a pedo and you are just going to let him stay there instead of getting him help, instead of breaking down the door, instead of saying, oh no, this young boy has to leave because you're like 35 and it's a 13-year-old. No, she did nothing to protect Roy. And that is when Eduardo Diaz walked back into the room, sat on the bed, looked at Roy and says, do you really want to be famous? Roy says, of course I do. He says, well, you are going to have to do everything I say, and sometimes you are not going to want to do these things. And that is when Eduardo Diaz essayed 13-year-old Roy. Days later, Eduardo Diaz showed up at Roy's mother's house and presented the contract to Roy's mother. When Roy sees that Eduardo Diaz arrives at his house, he runs into the closet, tells his siblings, don't tell anyone I'm in here, please. He was crying, he was shaking, he was trembling with fear as he did not want to see Eduardo Diaz ever again. Eduardo Diaz tells his mother he wants Roy to be a part of Menudo, tells his mother he's going to be famous, he's going to be wealthy. She didn't realize that Eduardo preyed on very poor families. At this time, Roy was living in the projects with his mother and his 4 siblings, and they didn't have much money. Roy wanted to help his mother and siblings get out of the project, help pay the mortgage, help pay the bills, the car note, the groceries. So Roy signed the contract that day. And Roy said when he signed that contract that day, he felt like he was signing his life away. At this time, Roy said he started traveling, performing, and singing with Menudo. And Roy said he actually enjoyed being with Menudo. He said like he was floating on air. All the fans adored them. All the fans would wait for them at the airport. There was a huge plane that said Menudo on the side. And these boys stepped off of this plane. The fans were fainting, passing out, going crazy, screaming, yelling. And especially at Roy because he was so good looking. All of these boys were beautiful boys. And everyone wanted a piece of Menudo. But Roy made a statement that made my heart sink. He said that after he performed and that curtain closed, he says his legs and body trembled with fear as he knew what would happen next. And what would happen next? Eduardo Diaz made Roy go straight to his room as he was meant to share a room with Roy, while the other members of Menudo shared a room with each other. Roy says that he was essayed by Eduardo Diaz at least 3 to 4 times a week, and it all started when he was 13 years old. Roy felt that he had no choice in the matter as he was helping his mother pay all the bills, helping his mother with everything. He wanted to get his mother and his siblings out of the projects. At this time, Roy's mother became extremely depressed. She missed her baby boy, and she told Eduardo Diaz that she wanted to be on tour with her son, Roy. Eduardo said, no, there were no room for the parents, and you could not come on tour with us. She was so sad and wanted to be with her son very badly, but she couldn't. Roy says that he stayed with the band, and he not only sang and performed with Menudo, he also was on several television series as well, such as The Love Boat, Solid Gold, Good Morning America, and Soul Train. And get this, in 1984, Roy was a presenter at the Grammys and handed Michael Jackson his award. How exciting is this? This is huge opportunities for Roy, and Roy loved these opportunities, but in the back of his mind, he knew he hated being in the band Menudo. Roy said he suffered a lot and struggled a lot while in the band Menudo. He says that he was essayed almost the entire time he was with the band Menudo. And not only was he suffering, he said that he tried to take his life on several different occasions. But in his mind and in his heart, he says that the reason why he never succeeded was that God wanted him to stay around to tell his story. Yes, Eduardo Diaz was a pedo, but he wasn't the only monster in the entertainment industry. One day, a journalist is sitting around with Roy, and Roy sees a picture and says, "Hey, I know that guy." And the journalist says, "What guy?" He says, "You know, that guy, the one that was murdered." And it is a picture to none other than Jose Menendez. And that is when the journalists said to themselves, something must have happened between Jose and Roy. Roy says that before Eduardo signed a contract, he and Jose Menendez had a conversation. And I don't know what was in that conversation, but in my opinion, it was a conversation about what Eduardo Diaz was going to do for Jose Menendez. Because there wasn't just any contract involved. There was a $30 million contract involved. Eduardo Diaz had a conversation with Roy and told Roy, you were going to do something amazing for Menudo. You were going to do a huge favor for Menudo. And that is when Roy says he steps into a limousine. And inside that limousine is none other than the president of RCA Records, Jose Menendez, the father of LYLE and ERIK Menendez. Roy says that as soon as he stepped into that limousine, he noticed that Jose Menendez was looking him up and down like he wanted to devour him. He wanted to eat him all up. And he knew that Jose Menendez had intentions with him. But what were they? They arrived in New Jersey at the Menendez home. And that is when Roy says he noticed the sons of Jose Menendez. And he says that both sons looked like they had a very sad look on their face. Roy says when he arrived at the house, he sees Lyle Menendez sitting on the chair in the hallway. And he says that Lyle does not even tell him hello and has a very sad look on his face. Then Roy notices the younger brother, ERIK Menendez, sitting at the dinner table. He also does not tell Roy hello and also looks very sad. Roy says he felt the presence of negative energy in the house, the presence of abuse in the house. And I'm sure all of you have noticed that in a home before. I know I have walked into a place several times, a home, a restaurant, a classroom, anything, and you feel this negative tension, this negative energy, and that's the energy Roy felt, like something was wrong in that home. He then says Jose Menendez offers him a glass of wine, and Roy did not drink as he was only 13 years old at the time. Neither did Eduardo Diaz. However, Eduardo Diaz tells Roy to drink the wine. Jose Menendez says, oh, this wine is amazing. It's so expensive. You have to drink the wine. Not only drink it, but finish the entire glass. What does Roy do? He finishes the glass of wine. He says as soon as he finishes the glass of wine, he felt extremely tired and heavy. The next thing he remembers is being pushed down a very, very long hallway. He then says he remembers entering a room and he had absolutely no control over his body. And the next thing Roy remembers is waking up in his hotel room. He says he had no memory of how he got back to his hotel room and what had happened. However, Roy says he knew that he had been severely essayed by Jose Menendez. He said he was in terrible pain for at least a week. He said the pain was so bad that he could barely stand up. And he was very worried about what happened to him that night, as he had no memory with Jose Menendez. But he knew he had been essayed by none other than the president of RCA Records, Jose Menendez. Roy says he showed and told Eduardo Diaz about how much pain he was in. He said he felt like he couldn't move. Eduardo Diaz tells him, relax, it will heal soon and you will be ready. Ready for what? What were Jose Menendez and Eduardo Diaz going to do to Roy? Were they going to essay him again? Who knows? But these two men were monsters. Jose Menendez and Eduardo Diaz were monsters. I just can't believe what they did to these boys. And it is so heartbreaking watching Roy tell his story. And my heart broke for him as he was telling the story of what happened with him, with Jose Menendez, as well as Eduardo Diaz. Now, when I watch ERIK and LYLE Menendez tell their story on the stand, and when I watch Roy tell his story on TV, I noticed the same pain. I felt their pain as I watched them. It was the pain of abuse that these three boys endured by Jose Menendez and Eduardo Diaz. Why did this happen? Now, I have been watching crime for 30 years, over 30 years. And I know and I can see when someone is not telling the truth. I notice everything about their body language. I watch everything. No, I'm not a specialist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a police officer. I'm not a detective. I'm just a regular person. But I have watched serial killers take the stand. I have watched liars take the stand. Pedos take the stand. And you know when people are lying. You can tell. But these three boys, Roy, Lyle, and ERIK, are, in my opinion, 100% telling the truth and were victims of Jose Menendez. Without a doubt in my mind, I believe all three boys, and I do believe that Jose Menendez and Eduardo Diaz were pedos. My heart just breaks for all three boys. on what they endured by not only Eduardo Diaz, but Jose Menendez. The journalist asked Roy if he knew about the murder of Jose Menendez back in August of 1989. Roy says, of course, I was living in Brazil at the time and it was all over the news. But at the time, Roy wasn't ready to share his story because he had just been essayed by Jose Menendez 6 years prior. Roy says when he saw the news, he said to himself that any person that hurts a child, let alone their son, deserves to not be on this earth. He says that the rage and hatred LYLE and ERIK Menendez felt for their father was the same hatred and rage that Roy felt for not only Jose Menendez, but Eduardo Diaz as well. He felt that pain. And Roy says he could see why LYLE and ERIK Menendez took the life of their father. He says he felt that same pain for years, but has healed from that pain, but knows that he was essayed by not only Eduardo Diaz, but Jose Menendez as well. Roy says that he has failed in the past, but he is now ready to share his story and tell his truth. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. When I heard Roy's story, I felt several emotions. I was sad, I was heartbroken, I was frustrated, I was angry, and I said to myself, why didn't Roy come forward back when this happened? And he could have helped LYLE and ERIK Menendez with their case. Roy could have said, hey, these boys are not lying because it happened to me. But Roy wasn't ready to share his story. He wasn't ready to tell his truth because you have to allow victims to heal. They have to be ready when they are ready to share their story. And in my opinion, this is just my personal opinion, I believe when I saw LYLE and ERIK Menendez on that stand, that they still weren't ready to tell their story. They were forced to tell their story because in the back of my mind, LYLE and ERIK Menendez didn't want anyone to know what happened to them. They felt ashamed and they didn't want anyone to know what their father was doing to them. However, LYLE and ERIK Menendez believe 100% that Roy is telling the truth. They know what happened to Roy really happened because it happened to them as well. Now, I know that one victim has come forward besides LYLE and ERIK, which is Roy. However, in my personal opinion, this is just my opinion, I strongly believe, I can almost guarantee you, in my opinion, there are more victims of Jose Menendez, especially while he was at RCA Records. I do believe that Jose Menendez was a pedo, and I do believe that he essayed not only his sons, but Roy as well. And Roy believes that ERIK and LYLE Menendez will have the justice they deserve. Roy is now thriving. He lives in Brazil. He has 5 children. And he has a very close relationship with God. Roy says that he is now healed and he knows what happened to him was wrong. And he has finally shared the story with not only his mother, not only his siblings, but to the entire world as well, as he wants to help LYLE and ERIK Menendez get out of jail and spend the rest of their time with their families and friends. My final thought, I always give y'all my final thought. And my final thought is, I 100% believe that Roy is telling the truth. I do believe that Roy was a victim of Jose Menendez and Eduardo Diaz as well. And I do believe that LYLE and ERIK Menendez were victims of Jose Menendez, their father, as well. As you all know, I'm a very strong supporter of the Menendez brothers, and I hope they are released very soon and they can spend the remainder of their years with their family and friends. ERIK Menendez made the comment that he witnessed his father, Jose, go into rooms with band members, but never questioned it, as he never questioned anything his father did. ERIK was going through the same pain every day. but never realized that what he was going through was wrong, as he was just a child. So in my opinion, LYLE and ERIK Menendez need to be released from jail. And I do believe that Roy will help them. I hope that you all enjoyed all 5 of the Menendez brothers videos. I hope that you like, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to press the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, Anne Marie. And as always, stay safe, always be aware of your surroundings, and always know that I am here for you anytime you need. Thank you so much for the love and support. And for you, I am truly grateful. I love you all. I will see you next week. Bye.